You walk into a room full of people, and within minutes, something in you goes quiet. Not because you're shy. Not because you dislike anyone here. It's that while everyone else fills the silence with weather and weekend plans, you've already drifted somewhere deeper. Listening, noticing, thinking 3 layers down. For most of your life, people have told you this was a problem. Speak up, loosen up, be more outgoing. But what if your silence was never a flaw to fix? What if the part of you that pulls back from small talk is the same part that was built for something most people never slow down enough to reach? Today, we look at the psychology of people who quietly choose silence over small talk, and what the science says it really means about the way your mind is wired. One quick note before we begin. This is psychology for reflection, not a clinical diagnosis. Being introverted is a personality trait, not a disorder. Now, let's begin. Here is the first thing the research wants you to understand. Preferring silence over small talk has almost nothing to do with how much you like people. Back in 1921, the psychiatrist Carl Jung gave us the words introvert and extrovert. And he defined them not by warmth, not by friendliness, but by one quiet question: where do you get your energy? The extrovert is recharged by the outside world, movement, voices, the buzz of a crowd. The introvert is recharged from the inside, reflection, depth, a single meaningful thread followed all the way down. So when you go quiet in a sea of small talk, you're not rejecting the people in front of you. You're responding to the format. The fast, shallow, surface-level exchange that drains you while it energizes everyone else. Think about it. You can talk for 3 hours with one person you trust and feel more alive than when you started. That's not a person who hates connection. That's a person who is selective about the kind of connection that actually feeds them. Have you ever felt more lonely in a loud room than you do alone? So if it isn't dislike, what is it? Part of the answer is happening inside your nervous system, long before you decide to stay quiet. The psychologist Hans Eysenck proposed something that still holds up today. Introverts and extroverts don't start from the same baseline of inner arousal. Picture a volume dial for stimulation. Extroverts wake up with that dial turned low, so they go looking for noise and novelty to feel just right. Introverts wake up with the dial already turned up. That means a crowded party, the crosstalk, the music, the eye contact, the small talk pinging at you from every direction doesn't read as exciting to your brain. It reads as a lot. You hit your comfortable limit faster, not because you're fragile, but because you started closer to the ceiling. This is why you can leave a long social night feeling like a phone at 2%. The same evening that charged your extroverted friend quietly emptied you. It isn't weakness. It's a different setting on the same dial. When does a room first start to feel like too much for you? Now here's where it gets beautiful. Your brain doesn't just tolerate depth, it rewards you for it. In her work on introversion, Marty Olson-Laney describes how introverts seem to lean on a slower, more inward pathway, one tied closely to the chemical acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is linked to focus, to memory, to the calm, satisfying pleasure of turning an idea over in your mind. Where an extroverted brain often chases the bright, fast hit of dopamine from something new and external, your brain lights up for the long, quiet pleasure of thinking something all the way through. So small talk isn't just tiring for you. It's unrewarding. It asks your mind to skim the surface, when the surface is the one place your brain was never built to enjoy. This is why a real conversation, A real book, a real problem to solve in silence, can feel like coming home. You're not forcing yourself to focus. You're finally being fed. What's something you could think about for hours without ever getting bored? Let's be honest about small talk for a second. The advice is always to just push through it, but your reluctance might be smarter than you've been told. A study led by the psychologist Matthias Mail recorded snippets of people's daily conversations and then measured their well-being. And the pattern was striking. The happiest people had far fewer bouts of small talk and far more substantive, meaningful conversation. For a mind like yours, this lands even harder. Small talk is high effort and low return. It costs you energy and gives back almost nothing your brain actually craves. So when you steer away from the weather and toward a real question, you're not being difficult. You're being efficient. You're skipping the part that drains you to reach the part that's worth the cost. You don't dislike talking. You dislike talking that goes nowhere. What's a question you wish people asked you, instead of "How are you?" If everything we've covered is true, then why does your silence still get read as a flaw? The answer isn't about you. It's about the room you grew up in. In her book Quiet, Susan Cain calls it the extrovert ideal. The quiet, often unspoken belief that the ideal person is bold, fast-talking, and comfortable in a spotlight. We hand the promotion to the loudest voice in the meeting. We praise the kid who raises their hand first, not the one with the better answer who needed a moment to find it. We treat talking as proof of thinking. But talking is not thinking. And the person processing in silence is very often the one who understands the most. So if you've spent years feeling like the world was tuned to a frequency you couldn't quite match, you were right. It was. That's not a verdict on your worth, it's a bias in the room. Where have you felt punished for being quiet when you were actually paying attention? So let's reframe the whole thing, one last time. The psychologist Brian Little talks about restorative niches, the quiet spaces we retreat to in order to come back as ourselves. Your silence in a loud room is often exactly that. A small act of self-protection so you can stay present instead of shutting down. And in that silence, something rare is happening. You're not absent, you're listening. Watching the body language others miss, holding the thread of what someone said 10 minutes ago, noticing the person at the edge of the group who's gone quiet too. The people who prefer silence over small talk are often the ones others end up trusting with the things that matter. Because somewhere along the way, people learn that you actually hear them. Your quiet was never emptiness. It was attention, and attention, in a world this loud, is close to a superpower. So here's the truth this whole video was built toward. You're not too quiet. You're wired for depth, in a world that mistook your depth for distance. And you don't have to fix that. You just have to stop apologizing for it. Here's a small challenge for this week. The next time you feel that pull to escape the small talk, don't force yourself to perform. Instead, ask one real question and see how fast the surface gives way to something true. Then tell me in the comments, what's a question you wish more people asked you? I read them, and I think you'll recognize yourself in the others. If this felt like someone finally describing the inside of your head, subscribe. Every week, we explore one more quiet truth about the way your mind works. Take care of that thoughtful mind of yours, and I'll see you in the next quiet one.